Okay. You ready? Let's do this. You're listening to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. This is the podcast that delves deep into the outdoors, will inspire, inform, and get you stoked to explore. And I'm your host, David Webb. Welcome to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. I'm your host, David Webb. It is the last episode of 2025. If you're listening to this over the holidays, happy holidays. If you're listening to this in the new year, happy new year. I hope 2026 is starting off well. We have big plans for 2026 at Explore. You're going to see a lot more from this podcast and hear a lot more from me and my amazing guests, so I'm really excited about that. I'm glad to have you with us. We've got a great guest today, but first, I want to talk about you. Are your passions and your career aligned? When you pursue your chosen career, do you find it aligns to your lifestyle and to your interests and to what really makes you tick? Well, it's what I try to do, and my guest today does it very well. On this episode, we're talking to Mark Hubner, Senior Vice President of Baffin. Now, you know Baffin is the makers of those iconic winter boots that I'm sure you've used over the years or at least have seen in stores and on other people's feet as they trudge through the snow. Well, Baffin's expanding out into the world and making all types of new stuff, but we'll get to that later. The exciting stuff is what Mark does not only in his free time, but how he weaves exceptional expeditions into real-world testing of Baffin's footwear to create something that is uniquely functional, uniquely Canadian, and, frankly, just really, really cool. From treks to the geographic North Pole, end-to-end hikes of the Bruce Trail, Iceland, South Africa, Mark has seemingly done it all. And he's even met a few cool celebrities along the way, which we'll talk about. All right, are you ready to hear more about Mark's exciting adventures? All right, Mark, welcome to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing lovely. Thank you so much for having me. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's not too bad day in Vancouver, a little cloudy, a little rainy, but that's to be expected. Where are you calling from?
The rare day that I have at home this time of year. So it's in Ontario, the other part of our beautiful country, and I've got partly cloudy, bit of sunshine.
You're getting a bit of snow there right now.
Yes, we had some snow, and then it turned to rain, and then it froze.
So good to be home and not needing to be driving around right now anyway. Let's get into introductions. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners? Who are you and where are you from?
Yeah, so Mark Hubner from Burlington, Ontario, and with a brand and company called Baffin. So we are a business that traditionally specializes in outdoor footwear, apparel. We've got a heritage in cold climate winter boots. We do some industrial. In my role, Senior Vice President of Commercial. So I have a great pleasure of working alongside teams that focus on product development, marketing, sales, e-commerce, and everything that is not finance and operations.
Oh, all the fun stuff, basically. I love it. So a lot of Canadians are familiar with Baffin boots. What led you to this company and this career in outdoor apparel and footwear and a legacy brand like Baffin?
Well, I've come by it, honestly. Our family, I myself, I'm the fourth generation in the footwear space.
Wow.
3 generations ago, my grandfather came over from the UK and Canada and started a small manufacturing operation in the 1970s, just outside of Hamilton, in Ontario. And my father went on to get involved in the business and took his way via being an accountant and into sales and marketing, but always had a passion for the outdoors. He passed that on to myself, and I've got a couple of brothers. So I am the one of the 3 boys who got into the family business. I've got 2 very smart, capable, hardworking brothers who have gone on to do awesome stuff, and I got into the shoe business. And I've had a ton of fun every day since.
So how long have you been at Baffin?
Well, what wasn't documented were the years I was probably taking out the trash and sweeping the floors at an age that maybe not appropriate. So no, I'll go back that far. Formally, it's been heading into 16 years now.
It's amazing. Yeah. So how did that resonate with your family for you to continue this legacy?
It has grown to mean the world to me, really. The connections that we've had to the outdoor space growing up, just had a love of being outside, anything and everything outside. And then the opportunity I studied business and to marry that business part of my professional self with my personal love and passion for the outdoors is such a unique and special opportunity. I'm really grateful for that. My dad has been tremendously supportive of myself carrying that torch forward. He developed this real world testing philosophy, and when it goes back to 2006, he was challenged to wear his boots to the geographic North Pole.
Wow.
And stand on top of the world. And it was something that he did. And it's such an impactful experience that he brought my brothers and I up to the Arctic as well. And actually and my mom eventually met us. We all stood as a family on the North Pole.
How old were you?
19. I was in university at the time. My friends at the time and now still tease me a little bit because training for the North Pole is unique. See, we get dropped off in the Arctic, on the Arctic Ocean, on the ice floe, and you are there with all of your gear, everything you need to survive for anywhere from 7 to 12 days to do the last degree and reach the North Pole. So this idea of continuous movement where you're carrying all of your gear behind you, we had skis that we would ski on, we'd pull a sled behind us. To train for that, we actually would wear the same harness, but we would drag truck tires.
Nice. I love it.
The weight and the friction of that brought me to dragging a tire around where I was doing my undergrad. And I still get some laughs today, but what it was like coming around a corner and seeing me walking down the street.
At first, they're like, what is going on? Then after a while, it's like, oh, there's Mark dragging his tires around because he's going to the North Pole. Right?
Exactly. It turned a few heads, that's for sure.
So when you said your dad introduced you to the outdoors, you weren't kidding. A lot of people get introduced to hiking and camping, but he took you to the North Pole. That's a next level for sure. I can definitely see how that would have left a big impression. From there, was that a turning point for you, doing that level of an expedition, or were you kind of already on that path?
No, that definitely brought things to a different level. I think it expanded my outlook on what was possible. And probably inspired some creativity around how different it can be to experience the world at the outdoors. Now, growing up, we did winter camp. I would go up into Northern Ontario and we'd go out, we'd snow case, Quincy's, and camp kind of year round. So I did grow up with that inside of me, but then really going to the top of the world, it developed more of an appreciation and a passion for the product and what Baffin aspires to do to equip people for those extraordinary experiences, and wanted to continue to find different ways to do that.
I have a great love for the Arctic too. I've been up there a number of times, but not that far. It's always left such an impression on me, and I've definitely heard from people who have done the North Pole expedition to the true 90 degrees, and it's left a very almost spiritual impact on a lot of people, that sense of standing up there and, you know, the top of the world. It's a fascinating thing. But you've done a lot of adventures. So you're the senior vice president at Baffin. Makes sense, fits into your adventurous life. But beyond your 9 to 5 and all the passionate things you're doing there, this type of expedition and adventure is a big part of your life. Particularly, there's been a few interesting things that you've done recently, including 2 years ago, you did an end-to-end hike of the Bruce Trail. A lot of our listeners are going to know exactly what that is, but if you don't, it's about a 940 kilometer hike in Ontario. A lot of people do day hikes on it. Some people do multi-day. Some people go all the way through. You went all the way through in winter, if I believe correctly. So tell me about that. Why did you do that? Where did this idea come from?
Yes. So there's a few different things that contributed to the why there. What I did was there were sections that I did through hike, but the way we actually structured it was to complete an end to end of the Bruce Trail. Right. As you mentioned, you know, Canada's longest marked footpath, Canada's oldest trail system. The North Pole trip really expanded my curiosity and creativity, thinking through what sort of adventures could be possible. One of the things I became passionate about over the years is this idea that adventures everywhere and exploration is right in our own backyard. It's an incredible opportunity to go to the ends of the earth, and we get to go to some unique places. But more often than not, there's a lot of people who will travel to our backyards, wherever our backyards may be, And that's the destination for them. And we forget about the fact that we live right there. I live just down the road from the Bruce Trail. I grew up doing day hikes on it and exploring around the woods with my brothers. And I thought, you know what? I know people complete the Bruce Trail end to end. I don't know too many people who decide to do it in winter. How on brand is that? And that's Baffin's heritage. It's different. I think what was unique about this trip is because of Baffin's proximity to the Bruce Trail, where I live as well, our development of innovative and new footwear, we've been seeing for a number of years now, this movement toward a lot more freezing and thawing. You've got that are taking a lot longer to transition fall into winter, winter slowly into spring and so on. How interesting would it be to develop product over the course of that entire transition and that entire season? Because we're seeing so many different terrain elements out there. Being able to go out and we would, I would through hike a section, sometimes a 3-day hike through the Bruce Peninsula National Park and then learn about what we were developing and the different products that we were innovating. We'd make a change. And then 2 weeks later, I'd have the next prototype and the next iteration of that product. I'd take it back out onto the trail and hiking every step of the way, learning, developing, iterating, taking it back out, proving it, real world testing through the seasons and elements of its intended use ultimately.
What did you learn then? And how does that apply when you take that information back to the office? How do you apply it?
Some of the things we learn, even as a hiker outside of the business, I think will resonate. We've tested a lot of different footwear and different ways of developing slip resistance on the trail. And the way that fit and performance marries up with slip resistance and allows you to really take advantage of an outsole. One of the things we were developing was a way to hold your foot and heel in place in the back of the inside of the boot so that you limited that movement around, right? We developed an outsole, which was awesome, and it would glue to the earth and grip, but when your foot slides around inside, you're losing the benefit of that traction. We developed a system that would wrap around your heel and integrated with our front lace fastening that when you're, not only when you're ascending, but when you're descending, it would hold your foot back and help prevent the foot from sliding forward. So here's an example of how this differs from conventional product testing in a factory or lab. We have cold flex machines. We've got flex testing machines. Well, they may do 50,000 flexes, which is important, but it's in one repetitive movement. You're not getting that sort of torsional movement and learning what sort of rigidity you might need as you're on an angle or how the foot interacts with the boot when it is flexing like that. Those are the things you get to learn when you're actually out on the trail using the product.
Plus, for an extended amount of time like that is really interesting too. I remember talking to some other representatives of brands, and they do talk about factory testing and admit that some of the factory testing for a shoe could be the equivalent of, say, 10,000 steps or something like that. You realize if you're active, that's just one day of wearing that shoe, you know what I mean? So to take that out for weeks on end and really see how it performs is so key to getting feedback. That's really cool.
And for us, it was different as well. I mean, to your point, like we've done some really cool and exciting and challenging adventures, excursions, expeditions, but they tend to be isolated from a time perspective, right?
And so how long was the expanse of time to do the end-to-end?
So it began in the fall, and the goal was it had to be completed in the winter. It was funny how it worked out. And we had, the team, we planned a little bit of a celebratory event. We had amazing people, both internally that helped bring this adventure to life and friends of the trail and guests who we wanted to celebrate. And of course, the awareness and conservation efforts for the Bruce Trail, bringing that all together. You've got to put that in the calendar. And so we decided, let's have that celebration on the last day of winter. And well, it was actually until the last day of winter. I still had, I think the last day, something like 9 kilometers left. It was just that last final section. Yeah. So the last day of winter, completed the hike with some close friends. A friend of the brand, actually, Connor Emeny, had just flown back from completing a new world record in Antarctica and joined on that final leg, that final day, and celebrated that night.
I was reading about the journey, the end-to-end hike, and you met up with a whole bunch of different people, friends of the brand and fellow adventurers. Also, celebrities. You met up with the band, the Arkells. You had comedian Tom Green. You had figure skater Elvis Stoico. I mean, I could go on. What was that about? Where did these people come from, and why were they keen to be involved?
On the business side and the brand side, I like to believe we're pretty easy, pretty fun brand to work with. We try to keep things friendly in nature and not get too hard bound by putting pen to paper on engagements. We developed great relationships over the years with like-minded people. We thought this is such a unique opportunity to celebrate such an important, iconic, stretch of land, ribbon of wilderness in Canada. Let's add some fuel to the fire and see what higher profile Canadians who are like-minded and are open to, spreading that, amplifying that message of conservation, have them out. And it's funny because we, kilometers hiked over the course of this adventure ended up being north of 1,000. Not that the main trail is over 1,000 kilometers, but the Bruce Trail has a main trail, and then it has this network of side trails. It has several hundred kilometers of established side trails. Sometimes based on somebody's scheduling or proximity to the trail, they may not be able to get to the main trail, so they might meet me on the side trail. And so this idea of putting side trails as a content piece, it became how we shared some of our special guests on the trail. But no, we've had a great working relationship with Arkells over several years now. And I've met some people through mutual friends who, a funny one, you mentioned a few, but I still to this day have a good laugh when I chat with Donovan Bailey.
Yeah, I saw him on there too.
Yeah, and he'll be the first one to tell you, hey, and I do not like the cold. And I get cold easily.
He's a summer Olympian for a reason, right?
And he's like, if you can keep me warm out on the trail, that's a testament to your product.
There you go. That's cool. Yeah, that they're involved in the testing. Be like, listen, we kept a famously indoor sports summer Olympian warm. Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. And we're so grateful to our friends of the brand who have helped share a story, but really at the end of the day are just great people that are like-minded.
So when you think of Donovan Bailey, for example, saying, if you can keep me warm, then that's a testament to the brand. Did you get feedback from them, like testing feedback? Were they involved in that?
All the above. I think we have fun, but here's another fun side note. We've gone on to develop a great relationship with Tom Green. He absolutely provides real authentic feedback on the product. And he is somebody who uses it. I mean, he's got a farm, he's got a big property.
He's out in the wilderness these days, yeah.
Wilderness, man. And there's somebody as well who I've come to learn grew up going on a portage trip and loved the outdoors. And we've had some great conversations around, who knows, maybe we develop some product together. And there's somebody who, like you talk about somebody who's authentic, like-minded, yes, celebrity, high profile, but can actually provide and does provide great feedback on the product and thoughts on where development could take us.
That's really interesting to think that so many people in your community can help out and who probably also have a long connection with Baffin. So many Canadians have. If you love the outdoors and you spend any time out in winter, you probably worn a pair of Baffin boots at least once. I know I have. A funny story, I remember going to my first trip into the Arctic in winter. It was in Nunavik in Arctic, Quebec. Before going into this park, we had to lay out all our gear. They went to inspect it. And they looked at my boots and they were like, no way, man. Sorry. And so they just go out to the community, and the communities are so generous up there. They came back and I wore a pair of -100 rated boots, and they were just incredible. That's what I think of sometimes. That I got schooled. Thankfully, someone had a pair of Baffins for me to step into.
It makes me smile. Anytime I've gone up to the Arctic, you go to our namesake, and we've crossed the Arctic on Baffin Island, and you go up there and you see Baffins being worn in the most authentic environment. And that's the type of product that is truly important to their way of life.
Absolutely. But you've done more expeditions. I was researching before this, South Africa, Iceland, the Appalachian Trail. You teamed up with the Global Conservation Force in South Africa. I found that really interesting. Can you tell me a bit about that? Because that's not necessarily a landscape I associate with Baffin.
Oh, yeah. And you're right. It is a departure from our heritage. I talked a bit about the development of hiking footwear. We have now officially entered the market with a new hiking boot collection. On that journey, we thought, okay, we have proven ourselves in places commonly associated with the brand and with Baffin. Where's somewhere that has demanding terrain, and challenging elements, a place that is really rugged, that's going to test and prove the development of footwear. We have now a fantastic partner, a guy by the name of Blake Moynes, another celebrity friend of the brand, who is a celebrity conservationist. Blake is a Burlington guy as well, and we've mutual friends, and my brother and him played hockey. I had this proposal come across my desk, and I did a double take. I said, Blake Moynes. I reached out, and sure enough, the marketing team and him had started developing a relationship. We got to talking, and Blake is a forest ranger. He has done a lot of impactful work with global conservation. He's a big fan of Baffin, somebody who has opened the door to some really interesting and exciting expeditions and projects that we've done. He said, doing this conservation trip, we've got an opportunity. You can outfit forest rangers who work in anti-poaching, do patrol, really different and authentic feedback that's going to prove and beat up the boots. And so we said, you know what, let's go out, let's do something different. Let's test these in environments that we know are going to challenge them. It was a great way to validate the other end of the spectrum. Yes, we've got a product that when it is colder in the freezing temperatures, it's going to perform. When it is warmer, you want that breathability as well. And in wet environments, you want the waterproofing. And that was a great environment to prove, and a great organization doing awesome work that we were able to have kind of a boots on the ground engagement with.
Now, with those boots at that point in time, were they market ready, or were you still testing in South Africa? Still testing. Yeah. So is there a completion date, or when you go through and you're testing in the winter, you're testing Canada, you're going to South Africa, are you just keeping going until you got it? Or how do you know when you really have it? Because I do find that footwear can be quite subjective, probably more so than a lot of outdoor apparel. So when do you know you're there? When do you feel like, yes, we're market ready?
Well, you're spot on. First of all, it is subjective. It's very different. One of the ways we try to think about it is, and this actually goes back to a quote of my father. Paul was doing some real world testing. He did an early iteration of what became a soft shell boot of ours, and he was on a trek to Machu Picchu. And the product basically exploded. The sole separated, his toes were kind of shooting through, and he's got this picture of him on the trail. And he got teased, and friends said, wow, how brutal must that be? How does that feel to go out and your product fails? And he said, I don't see it as a failure. He said that the product failed for me so that we could make the changes necessary to ensure it won't fail for our end users and customers. I think the most important threshold we strive to hit is that our product quality and integrity is there, that we can stand behind it, because we'll get a product to a point where we believe it's market ready, take it to market, and then learn more about it. And then we improve upon it. Some of the biggest, most successful brands out there, and they've got styles that are on, I mean, here's a complete departure, but in the running world, the Nike Pegasus 47, I don't know, throwing something out there.
Yeah,
right?
Oh yeah, God, that's an iconic shoe for sure.
And someone would say, oh, well, that was market ready, absolutely, but here's an opportunity to improve, and so on and so forth. So we do, as much as we are innovating for new product, new categories. Right now, we're in the throes of revisiting our core and products that are successful. We're not going to rest on them. I think the most specific and tangible answer I could give you came not too long after South Africa. It was just over a year ago, October, and we felt like we had a market-ready product for our new hiking boots. And we thought, you know what? Let's initiate production, and then let's take a production-ready boot and find somewhere to test it and really prove it and say, okay, this is what we're taking to market. Can we stand behind it? So I thought an interesting way to do that would be to glacier test it, because near a glacier, depending on where you go, you can find such a diverse mix of trail, right? Like you can have firm trail, you can have greenery, rock, debris, and then you can have snow and wet.
Water crossings. Yeah, you'll go through the whole thing, right? So
absolutely. And so we looked at things like, okay, maybe going down to South America, and there's logistical challenges there. Okay, what about Canadian glaciers? And then we thought, wow, Iceland came into consideration. And there's somewhere that, I mean, is like they got an industry built on bringing people to their unique ecological features. Glacier, one of them. And so we thought, here's a place we can go. And inside of a week, we can test in rain, sleet, snow, firm trail, rock, you name it. And let's actually glacier test in Iceland. I had never been before. Have you been?
No,
Iceland?
I haven't. My managing editor was just there last year and saw all her photos. Looks beautiful. A lot of diversity of terrain too, so I can understand why you might have gone there.
Yes, exactly. You can bounce around and get that. We heard pretty quickly. The weather changes either every 4 minutes or every 4 kilometers. And it was true. Like, we had beautiful sunshine, double rainbows, rain, snow, but any sort of terrain, trail, elemental condition that we thought we, or at least aspired to encounter. One of the experiences was hiking about 1 kilometer into a glacier that was tunneled for research and other purposes. And as we're about to head in, we have a safety briefing, and then they say, okay, everybody grab your traction device. We were told to put spikes on the outside of our boots. So I said to the operator, hey, excuse me, I want to ask the question and just give you some context, but I want to be respectful of, it's appropriate.
Their liability insurance or something, right?
Yeah. I said, we built a trip. We're from Canada. We have come here to take these boots that we've been developing into a glacier, and to have to throw a traction device on really defeats that purpose.
Yeah. You're not going to get much feedback there, right? You don't know how well the microspikes work, but...
Exactly. Yeah. We had a bit of a back and forth. He said, listen, I've actually never seen an outsole like this, and I've never said this before, but go ahead, take a traction device, put it in your pocket, carry it in your pack. At the first sign of the product not doing what you want it to do, put it on. You've had your testing experience.
Sure.
And I said, thank you so much. We'll do it. The interesting thing was he looked at other Baffin product that we were testing, not the ones that we wanted glacier proven. He said, no, they're not the same. It wasn't a Baffin. It was like, no, this product.
Interesting.
You have like some glacier runoff, crushed ice, snow, really different. You're walking up wet ice. I was more sure-footed in our hiking boots than people wearing spikes and traction devices. It was the most validating experience. And so now, to long way of answering your question, that was the moment that we left there and went, this product's ready.
So what is the difference in the outsole that did that?
The combination of, we've used 2 different compounds. So we've got and they're proprietary in nature, but the one compound is more of your rubber blend. It's going to be a little softer. And then we've got a grittier compound. It's called Ice Bite. And that outperforms rubber in ice and wet ice conditions. When you look at the outsole and the tread design, we use some pressure systems to understand when you're walking and what your gait is like. Where should you have Ice Bite versus other kind of multi-angled lug treads in rubber? And so the Ice Bite are flatter, the rubber are sharper. So you've got this combination of a compound and a tread design that's going to grip ice when you are encountering it, and then dig into the trail when you're on that. I'd say those are the 3 things: the compound, Ice Bite, rubber compound, and the tread design, knowing where to put those compounds, come together to give exceptional grip. Now, coming back to what we talked about earlier, and what we learned on the Bruce Trail, for example, was really unlocking the benefit of an outsole like that by ensuring that your foot stays in the boot where it should be.
Super interesting. Wow. Do you just have a thick notepad with you the whole time? I mean, are you even enjoying the experience? It seems like you just must be taking notes the whole time while you're out there.
We've got so many people who contribute to product testing. We've got amazing teammates. So it's a collaborative effort. But for myself, one of the things that I hadn't done in the past, that I started on the Bruce Trail because I logged a lot of hours just hiking alone in the woods. I started using voice notes.
For sure.
You throw a headphone in and you're hiking along and going, oh, okay, in real time, I'm taking notes, or I'm sending an email back to somebody at head office who's going to action something I'm experiencing while I'm out there. That really helps.
Voice notes while you're out in the field are great, especially the way you can transcribe them or have them transcribed now. So much easier. I always liked voice notes for years, but before we had really good transcription software, I always found it to be a pain. You'd have to, after you did them was fun, then you have to listen to them, typing them out, but now you don't have to do that anymore. But yeah, so we've been talking a lot about the Baffin hiking boots, but we haven't even mentioned what they're called yet.
The collection is called Terrain, the terrain hiking boots. On the men's, we've got Bruce, and on the women, we've got Elora. The names both inspired the collection, inspired by the diverse terrains that we're solving for, and the style names inspired by, of course, the Bruce Trail and the region, the beautiful region that the trail passes through.
So Again, as I've mentioned several times, so many Canadians familiar with winter boots. Baffin is right there in the name, Baffin Island, right? The Arctic, the cold, the ice. What was the motivation and inspiration to step into this adjacent category of hiking specifically?
A few things. The honest business answer is we have a business that for many, many years had a lot of ties to snow.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not snowing, you see the impact on the business.
Fair.
So there's that aspect of it. But then when we look at the market, think about the needs of end users and people in this space, we did see with climate change, these longer transitions and seasons that have introduced more diverse trail condition. We thought, okay, first of all, how can we differentiate ourselves and bring something new to the table? But how can we extend the hiking season for people who love to get out and hike?
Right.
And that was, we have a pipeline of some really exciting product that we're going to be getting into multi-season, in summer and into that on the hiking side. But let's enter the hiking category with purpose. We saw extending the hiking season for the more diverse and changing, freezing, thawing trail conditions that are being experienced through multiple seasons is an opportunity that we didn't really see being addressed.
I love that. Yeah, it's really interesting. We've written about snowshoeing quite a bit as it's ebbs and flows of popularity, but a lot of people are doing that and understanding that in a lot of cases, people think they're going to go snowshoeing and you don't even need them on the trail. You walk out there and you realize you don't really need them because there's only 6 inches of snow and it's hard packed the entire time. There is sometimes this gap of people not really sure what they should be wearing. Do they need big snow boots? Do they just need regular hikers? They don't quite have the right fit for that exact activity. They find that a quality pair of boots and maybe some micro spikes in your pack just in case you want to climb something and you're good to go. So that's really interesting.
Wear a pair of gaiters, right? You'll encounter snow drifts. You're not going to get your snowshoes on. Gear up. Yep. Gaiters for me have been a great way to be a little more prepared if you do reach a bit of depth of snow.
I feel like people forget about gaiters sometimes. With Baffin makes a nice pair. It's something my dad always wore growing up. I always have this memory of my dad wearing gaiters, so they're always kind of in my mind. But yeah, once you start wearing them, they're indispensable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what are you up to next? We talked about what you've done. Where are you going? What are you doing?
A few different things. Next week, I'll be up in Whitehorse, Yukon. We've got a phenomenal partner up there, Coast Mountain Sports, amazing store and really important customer and partner of ours.
I bet. Yeah.
So going up to spend some time with them and do some real world testing, take the opportunity to do that while we're there. And but otherwise looking ahead to more adventure focused trips that aren't perhaps in the retail side. We are exploring a return to Nepal. Baffin's had a long-standing connection to Nepal. We're very proud to be big supporters of the Sir Edmund Hillary Foundation. They're a citizenship partner of ours, and there's a school in the Solo Khumbu region that the foundation built and supports. It's celebrating its 60th anniversary next November, and we're working through some logistics around what it may look like to extend that trip, getting to base camp and playing around outside, having a little fun.
I haven't been to Nepal, but a lot of my friends have, and I'm very envious when I see the photographs. That country's definitely been through it this past little while to support some causes out there and some good, hardworking people. We have an article about Nepal in the winter issue of Explorer. It's just coming out. That's really quite fascinating as well.
We're actually working on an event right now to do maybe the first screening of a new documentary called Dark Everest. It's just finished its film festival tour.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's quite powerful.
I'll keep in touch with you if you're around. I'll let you know when we're going to be doing that.
Awesome, for sure. It's interesting hearing that, the Sir Edmund Hillary Foundation or Global Conservation Force in South Africa that you talked about. What does it mean to you to be involved in these organizations that help steward and care for the outdoors and the people in them? How does that affect your company as a whole, and what does it mean for it to be involved in those?
We wouldn't be where we are today if not for the opportunities to experience the outdoors, and we're tremendously privileged to be in Canada and to be a Canadian brand. Our philosophy so not only at home but abroad as well, we look at it through the lens of where our brand is relevant at home in our backyard. So Bruce Trail Conservancy, we talked about that. On the advocacy sides, we're a partner. We're a great partner with Protect Our Winters Canada.
Right, great org. I love them. Yeah.
Absolutely. We just finished a conversation about the importance of snow in our brand and the winter season. And listen, we have a citizenship team that represents almost a number of different areas of our business. We've got somebody from e-commerce, production, customer experience, and so on. That team really comes together, having different perspectives from across the business and representing perspectives of end users and stakeholders outside of our business as well is our way of incorporating and giving back in a responsible and relevant way. I see it as a privilege. I can only imagine that there are brands and companies that would be grateful to be associated with these organizations doing such impactful work, to know that we're a brand, company, and partner that they're open to associating their name with. It's something that we hold dearly and are committed to finding ways to give back, not only, financially, but getting out there, raising awareness and being on and engaged.
I love that perspective, that it's your privilege to work with them. That really says a lot about your company values, for sure. What can you tell us about specifically for the next year in Baffin? You hinted at some multi-season stuff. What are you excited about in the year to come? Personal or professional?
Oh, geez. How much longer do you have? So, yeah, I think I'm in the unique position where a lot of personal and professional things come together. We're working on a really cool event up in Yellowknife that I'm also going to have Baffin involved with, built around bringing executive leaders in Canada up north and learning about how we can strengthen a relationship with the territories in our northern communities. That's an interesting one, I think. The Nepal project, great as well. On the product side, we are very proud and open to share that we continuing our expansion into hike, and that's going to include the launch of a new collection. It's being real world tested and built the way that we train. It's going to fit almost yin and yang, and it's going to complement you. We're going to have a terrain collection of hiking boots that take you from fall through spring, and then we're going to have a collection that's going to take you from spring through fall. So on the footwear side, that's great. The other thing that comes to mind is we got into apparel about 15 years ago. Our intention was to create a system of head-to-toe gear that allows you to reach the ends of the earth and do an Arctic expedition.
Wow.
We learned a lot about what it's like to play in the apparel space. We've sort of reprioritized on footwear for a number of years, quietly moving back toward a re-expansion of our apparel collection. And that's something that it's being played pretty close to the chest and couldn't be more excited to bring it. If we did just preview a new Arctic parka with the CFL. So we're an official partner of the CFL and Grey Cup, and there were hundreds of Baffin parkas that we outfitted the league. And
love that.
Partners there for an event that is very uniquely Canadian.
Definitely. I was just going to say, that's just so Canadian. I love that. I love the involvement and national pride there. That's awesome. A lot going on. That's so great. Wow, we've talked about a whole ton. Is there anything we missed?
I think if there was anything we would have missed, that it maybe would have been the share on the apparel side, but just squeeze that in and lots of things. Who knows, maybe we'll have a backcountry jacket developed with our friend Tom Green and see where that heads.
He's going to want extra pockets for all his podcast gear. I always see him walking around the woods with his podcast gear on.
Absolutely. Exactly. He's got his microphones and everything. I'm sure between that, he really appreciates abrasion resistance, right? Like he gets out of the bush and he blazes his own trails. He wants to be able to push through and not have his footwear or outerwear get ripped up by the debris that he's navigating.
I can see he's going through all those leafless trees and sticks and deadfall and stuff like that. That's cool to get different perspectives. Oh, I love it, Mark. There's so much going on. It was really a pleasure to talk with you and hear about what you're doing and what Baffin's doing. I'm excited. I always come out of these podcasts so inspired. I've just learned so much about a company that I thought I knew. I feel like I didn't. So I know all our listeners will feel the same way. I appreciate you sharing and being so open with us for the past 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and to the listeners for tuning in, and for those who stuck with us. And we really appreciate being able to share some stories, because Explore does such a great job of sharing stories of adventure and the outdoors. So I appreciate
thanks.
it.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. A few years ago, while I was recording a whiskey fireside chat with Kevin Callan, aka the Happy Camper, he asked me who my favorite all-time podcast guest was, and I gave him a truthful answer. It's the most recent one. And that is definitely true for Mark. I am so stoked and so inspired by hearing about what he's up to, how he weaves expeditions and adventures into real-world testing, how he's carved out such an impactful and meaningful and fulfilling career for himself that has given me all types of new ideas for what I want to do here at Explore. Which leads me back to the introduction, that you're going to hear a lot more from me in the new year, and a lot more from exciting guests like Mark. I know I'm inspired. I want to get out and do a big expedition and throw on those new Baffin boots, which I'm sure we'll be testing, and connect with Canada and connect with Canadians and get into those inspiring outdoor experiences that we're talking about. So thanks to Mark for joining me today. I hope you feel as inspired as I am. And as the new year approaches, let's think about how we can all get into more inspiring outdoor experiences in 2026. What does that mean to you? What goals do you want to set? How do you want to get there? It's a lot to think about. Thankfully, it's fun. Okay, thanks for tuning in today. I'm David Webb, and hey, live the adventure.